on staff in organisations. So what we're talking about today is helping non-profit staff learn the basics about what good practices are to keep information safe across your organisation in this new cybersecurity age. So we'll cover that. Lots of time for Q&A at the end. It's a lunch and learn session, so feel free to eat away while you're listening. That'll make me hungry, which is all good. And what we're really aiming to do is answer your questions as we go. So, obviously, I do acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm joining you today from Bunurong land in the Kulin Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded. It's really good to see some of those conversations starting, but I know we have a long way still to go, but it's really pleasing to see more movement in that space than there has, for many, many years, far too many. Really want to acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us on the webinar today, especially really keen to hear about your cybersecurity journeys and challenges and help you as much as possible. So, few topics that we are going to cover today. Number one, cybersecurity threats. We've already had a little bit of the hot topic of Optus breach today. That's moving faster than I can blink at the moment in terms of evolutions. So I will cover that, but no, I won't answer all your questions on it because I've still got plenty of questions. The top 5 things you should know to keep your organization's data safe. So what we're aiming to do is give you good practice information around how can you look after the sensitive information you collect, you work with, you manage, so that you're not affected by these breaches, or at least so you've got a minimal chance. And we've got lots of time for Q&A. All right, the webinar's officially going to finish at 1:30. If everyone's so excited by cyber and they want to talk for another hour, Anne and I are committed to you. We want to talk cyber with you. So as much as you've got questions, as much as you want to relate it to your information, let's work it through and talk about it. So, bit of housekeeping. Please keep yourself muted. Please turn your video on. Please come off mute. If you've got a question partway through or as we're talking about a particular slide, ask it at the time. Don't wait till the end. If it's really complex, we'll say, hey, look, let's push that out a bit later so we don't delay everyone too long. But the more people understand as we go, the better off it's going to be for everyone. No question is, too silly. Cybersecurity is absolutely not a non-profit strength point. And so I'm really keen to get that baseline for everyone. The webinar is being recorded. Recording will be sent out in the next 24 to 48 hours, just depending on how many other things we have on our plate. But so if you miss something or you want to go back and listen to it again, you'll get that later today or tomorrow morning. And obviously the slides will come out as well in that email. All right. Security in the headlines. Yes, the good old Optus one, urgent update about your personal information. That has got to be all over the papers as well today. For those that didn't join right on time, yes, I was picked up in this breach. So my passport number, driver's license number, date of birth, etc., were in that treasure trove of information. I got the lovely email from Optus. The interesting thing, though, is it's not just private sector companies. There's a whole lot of large non-profits in this one as well. Oxfam, Uniting Care Queensland, as just former caseworker. There's, it's a Melbourne-based organisation, this one, bottom right. There's been breaches regularly, and we are seeing in terms of the ACSC and the Office of the Australian Information Commission data, cybersecurity breaches are rising all the time, and the attacks are continuing to go. It's really interesting, last year, I think losses of almost $2 billion through cybersecurity breaches, so it's significant. In the non-profit sector, it's all about the sensitive data we look after and we hold. And it's all about keeping that safe, because what we're doing is we're working with individuals to try and change things for the better. And part of that is making sure we have the right processes and the right procedures so that we have that in place. The biggest challenge, and that's why really this webinar is so important, is that the human element, that's what you and I and everyone else does, continues to drive breaches. There was a 82% of breaches, according to a Verizon report earlier this year, involved the human element. So it's about someone not quite keeping. Systems are great and systems are good, but they can't fix everything. That's the bad news. IT is not the panacea. Probably everyone already knew that. So having people understand where the risks are, how to spot cybersecurity risks, and to know what to do with them, that's what we're aiming to do today. All right, 5 things we're going to talk through. I'll go probably a little bit too fast for some, so slow me down or watch the recording, because what I'm trying to do is give you value in your 30 minutes. Number 1 is know how to spot a phishing email. Right? We like this slide because it covers the key attributes. All right, and we'll do this in a bit more detail because this is our number 1 point. So number 1, is there a strange from address, right? Is it a from address that looks legitimate, looks associated with what the email is about, or is it something weird, John gobbledygook at Deutschland or whatever it is? The stranger it is, that's a good indication that it could potentially be a dodgy email. Number 2, if the reply address is different to the from address, that's another good indicator. Number 3, poor spelling, grammar, or design. These things are designed to be blatted out fast by people that don't always take that attention to detail with English, and that's where grammar or design is often another indicator that there's something not quite right going on there. Number 4, if I can find that, attachments you didn't ask for. So if there's attachments, attachments are a good way of trying to infect your PC with something. Don't open them. Number 5, a generic greeting. In this one, it's dear taxpayer, dear sir, dear M. Harvey. My email address is mharvey@infoexchange.org. So they're all generic things that indicate they don't know me as a person. It's another scam warning. Number 6, urgent call to action. Pay this urgently. Click this button or lose access to your account. Open this to maintain your Amazon Prime. Something that's urgent is what they're usually trying to do. And number 7, this is probably my favorite, so I'm going to cover that a couple of times in the next 5-10 minutes. Strange links. So putting your cursor over the links to see where it goes, not clicking on it, is the number 7 and probably one of my favorite ways of working out how dodgy versus how safe is that email. So they're the 7 top tips we have to spot those phishing emails. Obviously, if all 7 are sort of ticked, it's 99% likely. But I've also seen great phishing emails where only one of them's ticked as well. It's all about how much time people take to craft these things. The phishing emails usually lead to a dodgy website, is the second comment. It is pretty easy for people to create dodgy websites. And it's very cheap. I can create a website and host it. This is one that was doing the rounds a while back. It was an Office 365, a lookalike sign-in website designed purely to get your Office 365, or today Microsoft 365, sign-in credentials. So this was on the left here. This was the attachment. You clicked on this. You went to this sign-in. People that weren't watching just put in their username, their password, clicked on verify account, and bang, the hackers had their Microsoft 365 credentials. They jumped in, started browsing through SharePoint, reading the old emails, and then started using the email to spam others, everyone in the address book usually. Apart from the fact that it's sort of slightly different to the official one, the real trigger was the URL or the web address that had nothing to do with the individual or with Microsoft. So again, it's about keeping your eyes open and keeping an eye on what is important versus not. What I want to do is just walk through, there's a good Australian government website from cyber.vic.gov.au, and I'm just going to walk that through and do a couple of the examples. Because what it is, it's a great way of just testing, and I'll show you as we go what it is. So for instance, this is I've seen more than one that's very similar to this. I'll zoom in a little bit for those with smaller screens. So tell us whether or not you believe this email is real or a scam. So there's a reference number in there saying subsidy benefit allocation, writing to you with your knowledge, that's good spelling for Australian government, an allocation of subsidy benefit. Simply reply to this secure message, and in the email give things like given name, family name, tax file number, address, etc. And they would also likely to attach a clear copy of a valid driver's license or Australian international passport. So a few alarm bells have gone off there for me in terms of government would almost never ask for some of this data in an email. Email is inherently insecure. So I've just clicked on scam, and it's going to talk me through why it's a scam or the indicators. The email isn't personalized, so we talked about that earlier, because they send it, so we are writing to, it's not Dear Marcus, as an example. Second example, you're being asked to provide personally identifiable information. That's something that is highly unlikely, or really Australian government would never do. They would always use a secure method to get that sort of information across. Third way, kindly affirm your eligibility by replying. Again, that's not really appropriate. This is a good one. I like this one from the perspective of, you can see the different font sizes. Inconsistency in fonts and colors or messaging, that's a big red flag for me. We spoke about that earlier. And another one here, again, spelling is dodgy as well. So that sort of stuff would almost never go out. So there's a few examples of why that one's, and we're going to do a couple more, and then we'll move on to some other elements. Here's the next one. Is this email real or a scam? I'm going to do this fairly quickly. So this is a nice little workplace giving one. I'm going to hover over because that's the first thing that I'll always do. It looks good, right? It's personalized, Jane. The reset password link goes into an appropriate spot. If I hover over it, it's goodtogive.ngo, which is the same as the email address, and that's the same as the organisation. So that's generally a good indication that it's a real one. I'm going to click on real, and they've said, yep, sender matches the email and the contents, and it's personalised here and here, and the URL, when you hover over it, looks fine. Next one, Coles gift card. Anne, would you mind just putting through the survey? Do we think this one is real, or do we think this one is not real? So what would you do with this Coles gift card email? Would you click, and I'm hovering over because I'm showing you good practice as we go. Would you click and enter your details, or would you delete it? Let us know what you would do. Oh, magnificent. We got 92% for 93%. So we're doing well. This is good, right? So this is the number one, in my opinion, this is the number one thing that you need to understand to protect yourselves from those phishing emails. How do you spot? Let's just have a look. We'll do the delete button. So here's the reasons. Email address has an extra letters in there, customer service with a double S. Sense of urgency, hurry up, drops in 10 days. The URL went to bigart.com.tr. never heard of that, not at Coles. And so that's another example of this is one of the challenges. Last one, SMSs are becoming more and more prevalent. And if you can pop up the next poll, again, no, I actually didn't find this as easy as the last one. So which one is dodgy is the short question. Which SMS is the scam? Is it SMS A or SMS B? You've received new COVID message regarding COVID-19 guidelines and symptoms, where to get tested, https coronavirusguidelines.online, or coronavirus Australian government message. To stop the spread, stay 1.5 metres away from others, follow rules on social gatherings, wash hands, oz.gov.au. A or B, which one is the scam? And like you, I found it, there we go, 50, or getting close to 50-50. I didn't find this as easy. So let's have a look. The numbers are with A, 58% to 42% at the moment. So SMS A appears to be a malicious link. So the big tip for me when I actually sat and looked at it is this link is not anything to do with Australia. So it's not a coronavirus.gov.au, it's guidelines.online, which anyone can register. As they've said, it's not a .gov.au, real red flag. And they will never email or call or ask you to enter that sort of information as well. So this was an interesting one for me, just because it's, again, testing you and asking you to think a little bit more about that. But there are some real challenges in terms of making sure you've got that right. So we got 4 out of 4 correct on average. So well done. Alex has a question. Go for it,
Just,
Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Just the previous one, the Coles one.
Yeah.
So I looked at the URL, it said coles.com. Now, first thing I would do is check if that's actually their domain for Coles, like whether it's that or .au. They probably have both. If it is correct, the domain, would that make it safe? I mean, understanding I would hover over any links inside first too, but can somebody actually use a correct domain for a phishing email?
Short answer, in the email sent?
Like, yeah, if it's sent from an official Coles email address that they own, can it be a phishing email?
So my unfortunate answer is yes.
Okay, cool.
There are 2 ways. So, but basically my answer is yes. Most are sent from another domain, but absolutely you can spoof domains and send them in a number of different ways. Remembering that someone at Coles may have put their username and password in and their account's been breached. All right, keeping on going. All right, finding the... If you work with money, you need to be extra careful. I don't know how many people here are on work in the finance or have financial authority. But the big comment here is, if you work with money in some way in your organisation, don't trust any emails with BSB or account details. Verify information by speaking with the individual, the staff, the suppliers, using a verified phone number. Do not pick up the phone calling the number on the bottom of the email, because that probably goes to a call centre somewhere that's been trained in how to extract your information and say, yes, that BSB and account number is real. Please transfer $100,000 immediately. So that's one, phishing. Number 2, protect information and protect important and sensitive information. The big ticket item here is you usually deal with a whole range of different information. Some of it is fair. It might be your annual report that's publicly available. Some of it's going to be health or more sensitive. It might be tax file numbers. It might be personal addresses. Knowing where to store different sorts of information is really important. If your organisation doesn't give you any guidance on that, ask for it. right? Some organizations say you cannot send this sort of information via email. Some say it's fine because they've got the right protections in place. But thinking about what's the information you're dealing with and making sure you're storing it and treating it appropriate is really critical. As an example, many organizations, the PCs aren't backed up. And so if you store sensitive information on your desktop and you lose it and you've got a weak password, that's open to anyone, right? So that's sort of where getting that stuff right is really important. Number 3, use some good password practices. There's 5 tips here. Know how to pick a strong password, use multi-factor authentication on any environment with sensitive, or wherever you can, but definitely anything with sensitive information. Don't share accounts or passwords, don't reuse passwords. And I actually recommend, this was a new one today we've added in, use a password manager, and we'll mention that a little bit more. The reason I want to cover don't reuse passwords for a minute, and this is why. So this is a great site. Links are in the links or the extra resources. Have I been pawned? It tells you if your email address has been leaked with appropriate information. So I'm putting in my work email address here. Have I been pawned? And I go, oh no, my work email address has been in a data breach. Whether you read the detail, it tells you all about it. Feb 22, it's actually not that bad, right? So for me, it's like, okay, so they've got my email address, my job title, my name, my phone number, my physical address, and social media profiles. They're actually all pretty easy to get, but it's an indication. Let me show you one that made me less comfortable. This is my home email address. No, I'm not showing you what it is because it's been in 11 data breaches, now 12 because Optus is not listed. And here's all the data breaches that my home email, and I'm safety, I try and support my family in being safety conscious. I'm better than most. So you can see, even though I'm fairly safety conscious, my home email address has been in compromised. Zomato, which is a restaurant guide, email address, password, username. I don't even remember what this one was. Passwords. So passwords have been breached multiple times, available in files for download on the dark web. If I used the same password in Zomato as I used for my work sensitive information, bang, the hackers are in. They know my email address, they know my password. So that's why that please don't reuse passwords is so important. Does that make sense? Beautiful. All right, keeping on going. Number 4, keep your device secure. Physically protect it, lock your screen when your device is left unattended, keep it up to date. Don't ignore warnings or errors. That's one of my favorites. It's always very easy when you're busy. There's a weird little button popping up on the bottom right of your screen. I'm too busy to deal with it. I'll deal with it in 3 weeks' time. Those things are really important. Thinking about the security of your device in terms of, is it being patched correctly, is really important. Number 5, easy to say, but you've got to be willing to do it. Report anything you're not sure about. This is the best way of making sure, if there's some unfamiliar activity on your devices, report it to the person in your organisation that needs to know about it. There's an Australian cybersecurity hotline as well for small to medium-sized organisations who can assist. That's a really good resource and tool. I'm not going to go through the key takeaways because you'll have the slides. Useful resources, including the ability to book an expert if you need more information with Anne or one of my team to talk through anything in a bit more detail. The phishing website test that we walked through earlier, the have I been pawned, so you can see whether or not your email address has been approached, as well as some other guidance material. Couple of questions we often get asked, and then I'll throw it open to the group. So please get your question ready and come off mute if you've got a question, or raise your hand. What's a good password manager for individuals? I like both LastPass and Dashlane because they have solid free options. By solid, I mean that you can secure them with multi-factor authentication. It works well, it's encrypted, all those sorts of things. If you're looking for a password manager for an organization, so you've got lots of people, connecting up, Dashlane's another good one, and connecting up offers that. There's a link there with non-profit discounts, which is always something I like because it means you can take that money and spend it on something else. Next question, what should I do if we use a 365 workspace but it doesn't have MFA? Talk to your team, talk to your IT staff. If they haven't enabled MFA on your core collaboration environment, that's the biggest target for phishing emails because so many people use it now. So getting that under control. For the last 2 years, both Microsoft and Google have had all new tenants have had it turned on by default. So even they're saying this is really a must now. Number 3, how do I know if my PC is being updated with security patches? Hopefully your IT team's looked after this, but there's a little trick there on how to do it if you're not sure. Questions and discussion. There is also a link in case people are, we would love your feedback as well. But no, we would, so any questions, anything I can help with, and I will post in chat a link to the feedback survey. You can tell me I went too fast and had too much content because that's clear. Got a bit excited with a few of the issues that are topical at the moment. Oh, and Tara saying a pop-up blocks the images. Okay, thank you, Tara. Alex, you've got your hand up, then we'll go to Sasha.
Yeah, I use Google Chrome, and it does the it offers you the password thing. Like, is that safe to use that across different devices?
I will say it's not as safe as the options I put up.
My husband already covered that.
The challenges with the Google Chrome password manager is it's not got multi-factor authentication, so there's not multiple layers of protection over the top of it, and also it doesn't work well with non-Google Chrome elements. So that's the 2 reasons. So it can work if you're only Chrome, but that's one of the reasons we don't suggest it by default, if that makes sense. Beautiful. Sasha, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's like a checklist for a risk assessment that we can do in the first instance. We're looking at getting a risk assessment done for our cyber, but obviously, you know, they could be thousands of dollars. So is there a checklist that we can do just to see at a glance what our weaknesses are?
Yep, what we'll do is we'll put 2 in the, and can you make a note of this so I don't forget? We will put 2 in the email that comes out. There's the ACSC Essential, what they call the Essential 8 cybersecurity protections. So we'll give you a link to that website, and that talks through what their top 8 are. There's also, I will also give you a link to the cybersecurity assessment on the Digital Transformation Hub, which is a bit more non-profit specific, and that tells you whether a basic, intermediate, or advanced in terms of your cybersecurity protections.
Okay,
no problems, Rebecca.
Thank you. And just one more question. Sorry, I was just curious as to see how many of you guys have cyber insurance for your organisation.
Anyone with cyber insurance, can you raise your hand? That's probably the easiest way of doing it. I will raise mine. So it looks like we've got just a couple, maybe 3.
I was just curious to know, to see what others do or don't have, so that was all.
Yeah, my comment is it all depends on what it costs and what you get for it. I've seen really bad value cyber insurance. I've seen good value cyber insurance. It comes down to what you already do and whether or not it offers value. Some deeds require you to have it. Absolutely correct, Tara. Beautiful. Any other questions from the group? Nope, looks like we're pretty well done. Apologies for going slightly over time. I do hope that was useful. We will send out the video recording, the slides, and those 2 links that I mentioned for you, Sasha, just in terms of the ASESC's Essential 8 Cybersecurity Protections and the Digital Transformation Hub Cybersecurity Quiz, which gives you 2 separate assessments there as well. Thank you for joining us today. It's been fabulous. If you've got something longer you want to talk about, feel free to hang on the line. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you again at one of these lunch and learns in the future. We do have a cybersecurity webinar coming up in about 3 weeks' time, focused on IT managers, where we've got PwC. I'm talking. There's also some non-profit, non-technical staff, corporate service managers, running a panel discussion on what's the future, what do we need to focus on, those sorts of things. So thank you very much. We will see you all again soon.